Hey guys, it's Amanda. Sorry that I'm on my phone right now, but I was getting ready to upload the video for today and realized that I didn't have an intro. So, the video that I've been working on the past couple of weeks is interviews with a childhood friend of Pervis Payne as well as a death row minister. So I have someone who can speak on his character from the time they met to the time the crime was committed, and then I have the death row minister who has known Pervis for the past 6 years, so he kind of gives insight into how he's doing in prison and what he's learned about Pervis over the time that he's spent with him. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel, and if you push the little notification bell, you'll get notified anytime I upload a new video. And I wanted to let everyone know that the DNA test results are not back yet. They will be back here in about 3 weeks, hopefully. If there is any update to the DNA test results the day they're released, I'm going to make a new video, and if there's any update to his execution date, because I do know that his attorneys are meeting with the governor next week on his petition for clemency. So I just wanted to let y'all know what was going on with the case and what to expect from this video and future videos. So with all that said, I hope you enjoy. So tell me how you met Pervis Payne.
Pervis came in my life, maybe first, second grade. When we were in first and second grade, he moved to Drummond's and started Drummond's Elementary School. And we just started from there. We hit it off and then was friends from there.
So y'all were friends from first or second grade up until
high school, through high school.
Yeah. So you feel like you know him pretty well.
Yeah, I do.
Okay. What were your thoughts when you heard about what happened?
Disbelief, because I know him. I've never seen him display any type of violence, except when I used to pick on him. I was kind of the bully.
Yeah.
When we were growing up in kids, and we had a couple of altercations. But other than that, he never. There's not a violent bone in that boy's body, in that man's body.
Yeah.
Never seen him act out.
So what would you say his character was like growing up?
Pervis he's a protector. Mm-hmm. And I know there's a couple of incidents where that I was going to get into it with somebody, and he jumps in front of me.
Yeah.
You ain't got to, you don't have to do this tight. I got him. He's called me Tight. Tight was my nickname, and that's what he calls me to this day. He called me Tight.
Yeah.
I was like, man, but he was a protector.
That was just his personality.
Yeah.
I'm sure he was like that with his sisters as well.
Oh yeah.
Especially.
Yeah.
So, when was the last time you saw him before the crime occurred?
We were together. We were together in the park. I think it was a church picnic at Edmund Orgle Park. We call it Casper Creek. And we were laughing, giving each, just joking and doing what teenage boys do.
Yeah.
As far as giving each other a hard time and laughing, having a good time and eating and whatever.
And that was the day of the murders.
That was the date. I mean, that was literally hours before this took place.
Right.
Like I said, when we left, we all went our separate ways. I think he was going to his girlfriend's house. My cousin Stan and I went home, and I don't know where the others went. But by the time by the time I got home, my dad comes running out the door because he knew we were together.
Yeah.
So he was scared, and he was like, they had just, they're after Pervis for murder, and I was like, what? You got to be kidding me! There's no way. There's no way.
I think back to people I've known since the first grade, and I would be the same way.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like whoever did it was angry, because if it was random, like the prosecution tried to say, he was on drugs or he was this or he was that, he wouldn't have stabbed somebody 84 times and their kids. You know what I mean?
Especially a woman and a kid. I mean, golly, that is no way.
Yeah. So he was pretty respectful, you would say.
Yeah.
I know his dad was a pastor, so I would assume that he grew up in a respectful home.
Yeah, he did. Call Mr. Payne. He didn't play around. He was a disciplinarian, and you know, yeah. So you Pervis didn't cross him too much, or typical teenage. You know how we all are. We all are kind of a little hard-headed at times.
Right.
Yeah.
But he had never been in trouble with the law.
No.
Would you call him a troublemaker in school?
No.
So he only kind of faced people when he felt like he needed to protect somebody.
Yeah.
Would you say that he would go out of his way to help people?
Definitely. He would do that.
Is there any times you can remember?
God,
I know, it's a long time ago.
I mean, it's just little things, but I can't remember. But I know what type of person he is. If I needed a little money for this, because I didn't grow up with a whole lot of money, but Pervis always had a little bit more than we did. So, so he was always sharing with us.
Right.
He would pitch in a little here, pitch in a little there. So
he basically give you the shirt off his back if you asked him.
Exactly. That's the type of person he was.
So do you think it would be in his character, the day of the murders, the fact that all the little bit of evidence they have backs up his version of what happened? Do you think it would be in his character if he heard somebody was hurt that he would run to try to help?
Absolutely. I mean, and I've talked to him several times after that. His story, when I went to visit him, when he was in prison, his story never changes.
Yeah.
When he was at 201 Poplar, when he first went down, when I went down there to visit him there, his story never changes.
So he told you what happened?
Yeah, he told us what happened. He went in to help. He said, I opened the door and it just shocked me. I didn't know what to do. I just lost. I was trying to help.
Yeah, because I actually read something where his dad said he wanted to help everybody, and he had to teach him that you can't help everybody because everybody doesn't have good intentions. Yeah. Is that the type of person you remember?
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah. And I mean, the way, the whole racial war that's been going on for years and years and years.
Yeah.
You think he was just an easy scapegoat, being that, I mean, they say he's intellectually disabled. Do you ever remember him being behind in school or anything? He was a little slow on the schoolwork and stuff. Yeah.
But he just had other skills. He just had maybe working on a car or he just knew how to do things and paint, because he painted with his dad all the time.
Yeah.
He just knew how to do things. So
he was more of a hands-on.
Yeah, more of a hands-on type person. Yeah.
So, what would be the last time you spoke to him? I know you said at 201 Poplar years ago.
No, actually, I spoke to him after that. That was the
first time
when he was there. I went to visit him a couple of times when he was at 201 Poplar before his trial and before he got sent to Nashville. And I went to Nashville a couple of times to visit him. I think the last time I talked to him, I want to say it was before COVID happened.
Oh wow! So it was recent.
Yeah, it's recent. It wasn't too long. I talked to him, and I was on the process of getting on the list to go visit him, because that's what I talked to him about. And I said, man, get me on the list so I can come and visit you.
Right.
And Sister Yolanda was getting it all set up, and she had just messaged me and told me, they was getting everything set up, and COVID hit, and
nobody could
Nobody,
go.
yeah.
So, what would you say his demeanor has been like since all of this happened? How is he dealing with all of this?
The circumstances that he's under, and you'd be surprised. You know, he's a whole lot more uplifted than I would be.
Right.
You know, I talk to him, it's like, you know, it's like I was talking to him 30-some years ago.
Yeah.
You know, he's joking with me, hey, Titan, what's going on, man, and this and this. And I'm like, golly, this guy here, man. To be in that situation.
It's almost that's just the type of person he is, and even that can't get to him, and that get to the hardest people.
Yeah.
But I think that just shows how good of a heart he has.
Yeah.
With his execution date coming up, what are your thoughts on what all is going on now that they've finally been able to have a judge allow them to do DNA testing?
I'm just glad the judge allowed it. I mean, that's stuff they've been trying to get done for years. You know, trying to get stuff tested, and so it's a blessing in disguise. I mean, it's
crazy to me that it took 33 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that's horrible.
I don't even know how to speak on that because I get a little frustrated with that one.
Oh, I'm sure.
Why they didn't allow it, you know, and you have to go through all that, you know, to clear them. So.
If you could say anything to him today, what would you say to him?
Just stay strong. I know everybody's praying for him, you know. Just stay strong, man. That's all I can say. He knows.
Yeah.
Yeah, he knows we all love him. He knows we're all praying for him, so.
Well, thank you for talking with me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Basically, I've just been doing a couple of interviews, people who know Pervis Payne that can speak on what type of person he is, things like that. So
okay,
that's what we'll do today.
Okay.
Tell me a little bit about yourself since I've never met you before.
Yeah, well, I'm Kevin Riggs. I live and pastor in Franklin, Tennessee, and about 6 years ago, I started going to death row. Our church has been involved in prison ministry and jail ministry, both here and then in Honduras. And just several years ago, there was an article in the paper at the time where they said 13 executions were scheduled over the next 2 years. And so I thought, well, I didn't know anything about death row or how to get there or anything, but did some research and got in, and have been going in ever since. And so I've known Pervis then for about 5 or 6 years, however long it's been that myself and then my church has been going into death row.
Okay, so what would you say your first time meeting him was like?
Well, it was around a table. At that time, they had a prayer time every Friday at noon, and that's I would go at noon specifically to go pray with them, and then just over time built relationships. And Pervis was always there, always kind, always wanting to learn, always wanting to talk about God.
Yeah.
And his close friend there is another inmate by the name of Kevin Burns, and Kevin Burns has been the chaplain's assistant for a long time, but about 3 years ago now, our church ordained Kevin Burns. So Kevin's one of our pastors on staff, and he and Pervis are right beside each other. They're in their cells, and so he helps Kevin. They have a church that meets on death row, and Pervis is one of the guys that is always there and always willing to help. And then every week when I would go in, Pervis would tell me what the message was that KB had preached the last time. And so our church has gotten to know him. And a couple of weeks ago, we had a prayer. October 4th was let me see. Anyway, there was some Sunday in October that was set aside as to pray for Pervis and his case.
Right.
And we actually had Pervis call one of the members of our church, and they recorded him, and he gave us a greeting as a church. And so our church is virtual right now, so we just played it as in our virtual worship, and so we got to hear from him personally.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I've spoken to a couple of people who grew up with him, and no one that I've met with so far can even believe that he would do this. So what type of person have you gotten to know over the last 5 or 6 years?
Yeah, well, Pervis has a position in his pod called Rockman, and that's really a position that carries with it prestige, because Rockman is kind of, for lack of a better word, I don't understand where the terminology came from, Rockman, but he basically keeps the pod area clean. Kind of takes care, like if somebody needs something, he can get it and take it to somebody, and then kind of, so he could be like run errands, for people to make sure that the person like if they have a grievance that they need to get filed and all those different kind of things. The Rockman usually takes care. So the Rockman has quite a bit of freedom in his pod, and you don't get to that position unless you're trusted by both the other inmates and the guards.
Right.
The guards know they can trust him because he's always been kind, never been in trouble. And there might be on occasion where Rockman has to go inside somebody's cell when the person is not inside that cell, and so the inmates have to trust that person as well because he has access to things. And so that in itself shows you what kind of character he has. That he's in that position where both the inmates and the guards have quite a bit of trust in him.
Right.
And that's the person I know. The person I know is always kind and trustworthy, and friendly and wanting to talk. And it's my understanding as well. I had his lawyer was on our podcast a week or so ago, and he had no criminal record before this happened. There were no issues. It seemed like he was just, wrong place, wrong time, trying to help.
Right.
And then they went after him and had tunnel vision and didn't even look at anyone else. And so I think he's innocent. A lot of the guys on death row will say I know all the men there. A lot of them will say they're innocent, and some of them admit to what they've done. And
Right.
just wanting forgiveness and restoration, but he says he's innocent, and I believe him just based on what I know. I have a soft spot in my heart for him because he was a preacher's kid. So
right.
His dad is a pastor, and so that
Yes.
kind of that hits me. And so just praying that the DNA will prove his innocence, and also praying between now and then that the governor would just go ahead and at the very least give him a reprieve.
Right.
His execution is still scheduled, but the most is give him clemency while the DNA works its way through the system.
Right. And I've had the pleasure of speaking with people who've known him since the first grade, and I'm going to have their interviews as well on the video that I'm working on now. But I mean, even they would say, his dad did not let them get away with anything. He was very strict, but Pervis would go out of his way. If you asked for the shirt off his back, he would give it to you. No question. And he didn't have a violent bone in his body. Is that kind of what you've grown to know him as?
That's what I've known. I mean, I can't see him being any type of violent person either. And, again, I mean, I didn't know him before he went to prison.
Right.
I know him since then, but based on his character since he's been in prison and how he's proven himself to be trustworthy and has a tremendous amount of faith. I mean, to be locked up for this long, knowing that you're innocent, but yet not becoming bitter about it,
right,
is a testimony in of itself that the Spirit of God is on him and helping him keep focus and keep believing and not giving up hope.
Yes. That's one thing that has always, I don't know, I've always had a special place in my heart for him because of how strong his faith is despite the past 33 years of his life. And that really does tell you what kind of heart he has. I've never met him myself, but his case has, I don't know, it touched me in a way no other case ever has. And the more I talk to people who knew him before, and the more I speak with people who know him now, I just feel that much closer to him, and I want nothing more than to see him,
Well, what's your
either get
relationship with him, if you don't mind me
exonerated
asking?
or whatever God's plan is.
Yeah. What's your relationship with him, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm actually from the same town that he grew up in.
Okay.
And my mom and my uncle both went to high school with him.
Okay.
So a lot of the people in the community here knew him. But the thing that has kind of driven me crazy about this case is that besides the people who know him personally, if you walk down the street here, I mean, I live 10 minutes from Drummond's where he grew up, and I live 10 minutes from Millington where the crime occurred. So I'm right in the middle of both. And unless you talk to somebody who knows him personally, no one even knows who he is or what his story is. And that was kind of my reasoning for using YouTube as a platform to get not only information out for people who are local to me and local to where the crime happened, but I think if we get more voices, more people to write letters to the governor, more people to stand behind this man, then he has a greater chance of possibly being exonerated one day.
Just talking with people who did know him and his lawyer,
Right.
and the case just seems to be so many injustices in it.
It is.
That I just can't hardly bear to think about anyone going through with the execution. I mean, I just can't. Have
Oh,
my
I
mind.
pray, and I pray every single day.
Well, I mean, you can do what you want to with your video, but my podcast is Floods of Justice.
Mm-hmm.
It's on all the podcast platforms, and we interview Kelly Henry. She talks pretty openly.
I think you give a good insight. There's a lot of people who can talk about him before the crime occurred, but to be able to hear about how he's doing in prison is, I mean, that just goes to show what type of character he has, and I think that says a lot about him as a person.
Yeah, and it shows, like his dad, in spite of his dad's health, will come up every week. I mean, they haven't been allowed visits since March. But, I mean, so obviously his mom and dad believe in him. And,
Right.
And are there. And I know, his parents have built relationships with some other friends of mine who go. I go back into the pods themselves, but then I've got friends who are like on the different people's visiting list.
Uh-huh.
And so they end up building a community with each other, and those guys those guys are a family, and they look out for each other, and try to encourage each other. And so he's always upbeat. He's excited about what's going on right now. He's got a lot of confidence that things are going to work out in his favor.
Oh, I'm so glad he's staying positive.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's hard to do with the execution schedule less than 2 months from now.
We talked about more than just Pervis's case. You'd have to listen through and find some things, but the majority of it was about his case.
Well, I will definitely check it out. I appreciate you talking to me about him.
Well, thank you for reaching out.